Okay, so welcome to the Boston Debate League Coach PD on coach tools. This is for all the kind of operational side of being a coach. So for everyone, if you're keeping track of practice attendance, your team budget, registering students, thinking about registering them for tournaments, which is a little ways off, but we'll do all of that today. And show you where you can find that info and answer some basic questions about all that kind of stuff. And so thanks to folks who are joining us live, and then also thanks for watching the recording, if that's how you're watching this. So I'm just going to jump right in, share my screen. All right. So one big thing that I want to share first off is that all of our coach resources can be found here at bostondebate.org/mybdl/coaching resources. And we're going to go to that page. I'm going to make sure my screen is shared properly for that because I'm not sure. Much better. Here we go. So yeah, here is our coach resources page. You can see everything we've got here. Season calendar, debate lessons, evidence, recruitment resources, topic videos in English and Spanish, student registration forms in English and Spanish, link to our general YouTube, which has a lot more than just topic videos. We've got example debate rounds. We've got old debate rounds. We have all sorts of recruitment videos highlighting our work at camp, videos highlighting some of the other work that we do outside of after school debate. So really a bunch of great stuff there. Tabroom, we're going to be talking about today, our media policy, our team budget tracker, our coach portal, additional lesson plans about debate from the National Association for Urban Debate League. So these are some extra things if you're looking for more than just what BDL does. Our coach newsletter archive, we send a weekly coach newsletter, and this has all the information from those newsletters saved for the last 5 years or so. And then finally, our event safety plan and code of conduct. We'll go over that at our first tournament, but that was new last year as a kind of request from a lot of coaches. So we're excited to have all this stuff for you. Yeah. And we're going to start today with Tabroom, which is, for those of you who have coached before, our main tournament registration software. And I'm going to go over a new feature that Tabroom has this year. This is where you keep track of your participation. So those of you who coached prior to the 2023-24 season, we had a practice attendance Google sheet that is gone now. It's just for tracking your team budget. We're asking if you do use practice attendance trackers to please do that and to use the attendance feature on Tabroom instead of our old Google Sheet system. And the reason why is that you can see a lot more information. It's just a much cleaner product, and it will help expedite registration for tournaments. So it's saving you time there as well. And if you do need help after this presentation with accessing your Tabroom account, please let me know. There we go, Tabroom. All right, so Tabroom for coaches should look something like this. Here, for example, is Somerville High School, and we're going to use them as our example for today. So you'll see existing tournament registrations here. You'll be able to see competitors on their team list here. A whole bunch of things, settings, access. So these are the coaches who have access to school, all this kind of stuff. And we can help you with all that and more if you're trying to sign up and get access to your team. You don't need to create your own school on Tabroom if you're new to coaching. It likely already exists, and we can just add you as a new coach. So we don't want any duplicate schools in the system. But we're primarily here to look at practice attendance. So if I click on the practice tab at the end here, you see I have 4 options: upcoming, create, past, and records. So upcoming is going to allow me to make changes or edit the attendance at any practices that I've created. Right now, Somerville hasn't started using this feature yet. It's early in the season, so we're going to create a practice, and we'll delete it at the end, don't worry. But we'll just call this, Tuesday practice. And I can pick, I'll pick, let's say I want to start next Tuesday, and I'm going to practice maybe from 3:30 to 4:30. So I can, again, pick the date, the times, and then repeating. Sure, I can make it repeat every week if I want. And I can set it to repeat. Maybe we're not sure after, winter break, so I'll make it repeat until December 27th. Save practice. And there we go. We've created a whole series of practices, and you'll even see it affected for daylight savings time, which is interesting. So we'll have to edit that out later. But what's nice is now I have this weekly practice set up that I can go in and edit, which is fantastic. So let's just say next Tuesday's practice, I want to go in and mark who on my team came there. I can just say, all right, Molly was here, and Brajesh was here, and Silas was here. So there we go. I'll ignore these warnings. Those will pop up, but you can ignore those. And if I go back to my practice tab, I can see now if I click on this again, it'll tell me who was here. It's saved. It has tracked practice attendance here. But what's also great about this is I can also look at the records for practice attendance, and I can see these 3 students now appear on my record. The number of practices they've attended, including how many this year, and the last time they were at practice, September 26th. So for example, if I also said, Silas maybe came to practice on October 31st, if I looked at the records there, you can see the update. Now Silas has been to 2 practices, and most recent October 31st, whereas Molly and Brajesh still September 26th. So that's the practice attendance tracker. Again, you can see upcoming practices, create a series of weekly practices or one at a time. You can see past practice attendance records, and then you can see accumulated attendance by student. Okay, I'm going to pause here for just a minute. Do I have any questions about the practice attendance tracker? Okay, one other thing I do want to add in very briefly. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just have one. How do I find the site that you're on? Can you put it into the chat so I can click on it?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and actually, why don't I link the whole presentation and put that in the chat as well, so all these things you can see, but I will link directly to that. And also for your school, the Higginson Lewis does exist already, so I can help. If you create an account on there, I can add your information. You can go to the page and click sign up, and then I can add you as a coach so that you can see all the records from the past for that school.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
Absolutely. One other quick thing I did want to show is how to add a student to your roster. So I'm just going to do that very quickly. So we'll go back to Somerville High School, and let's say I wanted to add a student to the roster, competitor. When I'm here, sort of on my main page, I see Somerville High School. I just click on the competitors tab and then add a new student. And I don't need to add all this information. The only thing that Tabroom really needs is first name, last name, and graduation year, because graduation year will make sure that student stays active in the system. So for example, I can do Roger Nix, and let's say I'm a high school senior this year, so we'll put 2024. And I'll save my student info. And I go back to the competitors tab, and you can see there I am, Roger Nix, graduating 2024. And that's it. If you see old students on your team who aren't there anymore and you want to make your list a little cleaner, you can retire them. Click this button right here, and they drop off your screen. If you happen to do that by accident, you can click on the graduates, and you can find any students like Roger, who we just deleted, and we can check this box to unretire, and then I would show up back on the main page. All right. Any questions, any other questions related to Tabroom? All right, great. And again, I'm available to stick around here afterwards, after the recording, to help people get access to their Tabroom accounts. Create a Tabroom account and get access to your school as well. Okay, next on the list is the team budget tracker. So for coaches who have coached in the past, this one is a returning tool. So as a reminder, every school gets a team budget that is a partner school with the Boston Debate League. For example, the Higginson Lewis or the Linden are partner schools with the Debate League, and you get $250 to start the season, or more if you have more than one team. So for example, if you have a high school and a middle school team, you get $500 to start the season. Or if you have a Debate en Español team, we also add $250. Then we give you an additional $50 for every engaged debater after the first 5. So for example, those first 5 contribute the initial $250. That $250 can never be, won't ever be taken back if you ended up with less than 5 at the end of the season. It's always a minimum amount you would get. But say you ended up with 10 engaged debaters at the end of the year, your total budget would be $500. If you ended up with 20 engaged debaters, it'd be $1,000. It's just $50 per engaged debater. And if you want to make a bigger purchase with your team budget earlier in the season, something like team sweatshirts, that costs more than the $250. You can do that. You just have to talk with your program manager to make sure that it makes sense and that your budget will increase later in the season to cover that. We also offer some bonuses for various things. We've offered for like practice attendance or bringing judges in the past. Those bonuses will be announced throughout the year. And finally, things like recruitment pizza parties will also be announced throughout the year as things that won't come out of your team budget. So if you want to throw a pizza party for your students, the first practice of the year, have pizza, that we won't take that out of your team budget, because that and other expenses we've found have been so universally helpful that we want to make sure every team has access to it in addition to your team budget. So please talk with your program manager about any expenses that you might want, as to whether or not they would count against your team budget, and plan around how much money you have to spend on various things. We recommend things like the occasional party or snacks at practice or team gear, or a field trip at the end of the year are all great uses of your team budget. And the number one way that, the main way that that is used is just by you spending money and then submitting your receipt to the Boston Debate League, and we reimburse you directly. And you can talk with your program manager about the reimbursement process if you have questions around that. I'm going to go to the tracker very briefly and just show off. It's fairly straightforward. So what's great about the team budget tracker here is that it's separated by school. So I'll just go with this first school here, BCLA McCormick. Here we go. And you can see the information it shows, as I mentioned previously, are the bonuses, the initial $250 funding, retention funding once you get to more than 5 debaters, and expenditures. And then this green amount is the amount remaining. So for example, let's say I'm a coach for the McCormick and I spent $27 on snacks at Stop and Shop for practice. So either the coach or the program manager who received the receipt should add this to the team budget tracker. And so let's say I bought it today, 9/21/23, coach name Roger, amount $27. And I would say snacks at Stop and Shop for practice. Item type, I can pick snacks. Reimbursement status, as soon as I make a purchase, I should send a picture of the receipt, text or email, to my program manager. And as soon as I've done that, I will say receipt sent to program manager. Once your program manager has submitted the receipt for reimbursement, they'll change the status to submitted to bill.com. And then finally, once you receive the reimbursement to your bank account, we try and keep this updated to reimbursement received. So this part is not always kept up to date, but do your best so that we can track if you've received all of your reimbursements, because we really do want you to get money from us when you are owed it. So the more we can keep this up to date, the better we can keep track of and make sure that you received all the reimbursement that you're owed. And then finally, I would say, does this count against the team budget? So things like that pizza party I was talking about, I would pick no. But for a regular practice snack, I would pick yes. And you'll see as soon as I do that, it comes out of the expenditures and shows my remaining budget for the season. The only other tool I'll show in here is that if I get up to some number of engaged debaters, say I'm up to 15 engaged debaters, I've now added another $500 to my budget, and you'll see the budget increases accordingly as well. Any questions about the team budget tracker? Okay. Great. So I will just clean that up. One other feature that will be available very soon in the team budget tracker that was available last year is a filter view. So for those of you who are not familiar with filter views, I can actually show that really one more time. This will save everyone a little bit of time. So a filter view is this little kind of graph calculator looking thing here. And I'll create a new one just to show you what it'll look like. The range is going to be for the whole thing. And we're going to filter by all things. Sorry, I'm messing this up. There we go. That's much better. Okay, and we're going to call this filter BCLA McCormick Middle School because we're going to filter it out so it only shows us BCLA McCormick Middle School's budget. And now you can see no other schools show up on here. So if I go and say I'm looking at a different school on this tracker, if I click on the BCLA McCormick Middle School filter view now, it just shows me just that school. So we're going to set up a filter view for every single one of your schools, and you can click on this drop down right here to see just your team budget, which means you don't have to go looking for it every time on this page. All right. Great. So the last thing I wanted to show today is the coach portal. This is, again, was piloted last year with the high school coaches, and they were given access to it. And we did a little bit of the professional development at the January tournament to show people what it was like. We're opening it up to all coaches this year. The main issue is we still don't have data from the upcoming season in it yet. So once we start to have tournament attendance records, once we start to have students filling out the registration form, then you will see more data in there. But I'll show you it just for now so people can see where that will come eventually. And you'll also be getting an email about access to the coach portal. So here we go. Share screen. So on the coach portal, you'll see we do in this, in the coach resources page, there's a link to a walkthrough video. It's about, well, I can tell you it's about 10 to 15 minutes long. And we do highly recommend watching this video when you have a chance. See. 5 minutes long, much shorter than I thought. And this will show you all the key elements of the coach portal. But for today, I'm going to do the short version. The data that's going to be tracked in here will be your remaining team budget, student info from the registration forms, attendance data from tournaments and eventually practices and other BDL events. And coaches can log in and see all this information as well. So if you get your students to fill out that registration form at the beginning of the year that has parent contact info and other helpful info like what grade they're in, birthday, that kind of thing, you'll be able to see all that as well. And that means that you don't have to collect all that information twice yourself. You just have to have them fill out our registration form one time and you'll be able to see it. So again, the link is here to the coach portal. When I get there, I'm going to have to log in. Now I'm already logged in. So once you log in, you'll see this. You'll click on My Teams and you'll see some different options. We have engaged participants. You'll be able to see how many debaters you have on your team for however many hours they've participated. You can click the report to see all the names of all those students as well. So for an example, so for example, here are the Hurley students that have signed up so far this year. You can see the students in terms of the strength of your team, which is how many students have reached that engaged level of debate. Again, our aim is to get at least 8 debaters to engaged during the season. So that's at least 8 regular members of your team, basically. And then form completion, you can see that here as well. So the registration form, again, is to keep track of information about your debaters, phone number, email, parent contact info, etc. And this doesn't show up anything because we don't have any students from the school who have it quite yet. But if I uncheck some boxes, maybe, nope, no records. So that's okay. And then finally down here, we'll see the current year roster students, and we'll see the team budget, again, which aren't updated quite yet because Hurley doesn't have any folks who hasn't spent any money yet, rather, I should say. So all this can definitely be seen in the video, which I will drop in the chat, the walkthrough video from last year. And all coaches who will be regular coaches on their team will receive an email with their login information for the site. Okay, that's everything I wanted to cover today. So that's, again, we just as a quick recap, we covered the coach resources page for Boston Debate League and the contents of that, everything from evidence to lessons to your logistical tools. We covered Tabroom, we covered the team budget tracker, and we covered the coach portal. So I'm gonna ask for any questions at this point. Do we have any questions related to any of the tools that were brought up today? And if they're individual questions about your school or your access, save them for just a minute for after I end the recording. All right, so I'm gonna end the recording here.